Ciao ragazzi, this is Katie Portanova, and you're listening to Florence and Me. I'm a lover of stories and all things Italian, and I'm going to bring you all that in this podcast. My intention is to inspire you to step out of your comfort zone and explore life and travel the world. Join me as I tell you my story and many others about Italy and my love, Florence. Andiamo! Ciao a tutti! Happy Thanksgiving to all my American listeners. Me and Giulia recorded this yesterday, and I can't wait for you to get to know her better. We have a great series coming up for first-time travelers to Italy, talking about different things like wine culture, coffee culture. I hope you enjoy it. I will speak to you soon. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao a tutti. It is Katie. I am back with a new series that I just sent out an email to all you guys about doing a new series with my friend Giulia, who is my friend. We've talked about this on my podcast, the woman that brought the 6 cats over from South Africa, who's amazing, and is my very dear friend. And we met in Florence when I taught English about 10 years ago. And welcome, Giulia.
Hello. It's awesome to be here, awesome to be a guest and to be working with you again. I am super excited about this series and all of the plans that we have for the future. And it's lovely to be talking to your audience.
Yes. And as you can tell, audience, she has a really cool accent. She really is from South Africa. So
really am.
She really is. And I didn't know the accent of South Africa until I met her. So it's pretty kick-ass. So anyway, so Giulia and I we're talking about our story in a second, but Giulia, I want you to tell my audience, my community about your company, Urban Yoke. Go.
Cool. So Urban Yoke is something that started quite a few years ago, and the initial idea of it was to focus on food and home cooking and help people homesteading, because the plan was to start a homestead in South Africa. Halfway through that, we decided, well, it looks like we're moving to Italy. So we're going to go there and do that. So at the moment, Urban Yoke is all about us moving to Italy, what it's like living here, and what it's like living in northern Italy, because that's where I am at the moment, and kind of talk a little bit about traveling in Italy. And sprinkled in there, we'll also be talking about growing food and amazing cooking and just making amazing meals at home. So kind of very Italian lifestyle, living la vida dolce, kind of just...
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. So, so your company is what? Oh, and a kitty. Okay, we're on Zoom. I see a kitty. So one of our kitties is with her. So I really like the idea of what Giulia has started. And also, those of you that don't know, she does have a YouTube channel, which I'll put in the notes. So you can learn more about her and her journey moving to Italy. So if you are maybe you're from South Africa and you want to move to Italy, she's a good little what's the word, like a prototype of like how it works, because she's done it. She knows how it works. So yeah, I love everything about what you're doing, Giulia, and I'm just so glad we reconnected. I talked about you on one of my podcast episodes, I forget which one, about our amazing meeting in Florence. Wasn't that just so fun?
It was one of the most exciting things I've done. I mean, over the years, because it was obviously our 10-year reunion, and it's crazy to think that we met so many years ago, so long ago, in fact, that I wasn't even diagnosed yet. And it was kind of just stepping back into the past. And at the same time, I was so nervous, because we hadn't seen each other in so long. And you're one of those people that I really regretted not being able to see. And when that opportunity finally came around, I was like, this is happening. I don't care how, but it is. And when I saw you standing there by, academia, I was just like, I couldn't help myself. I started crying, and
Oh,
it
yeah.
was such an amazing experience.
It was amazing because it did feel like stepping into the past because like I had not, I had wanted to invite you to our wedding and I knew you couldn't make it, but I know I extended the invitation and stuff. So it's really incredible the people that you can still be connected to when you're so far away and when it's been so long. So I'm just really glad that we've reconnected and we have all these amazing ideas and onward and upward. Go us. That's what I think.
Exactly, exactly. And
Yeah.
it feels a lot like just being, kind of just like we took everything from where we left off. It was
Yeah.
almost as if that time had never passed. It was actually really awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, that's like exactly how I would put it. Like, it's like as if time just kind of stood still until we met up again. And it was just like, except now we have husbands. So the only thing different, and cats, more
I
cats,
guess.
and cats. So we've added husbands and cats. That's what we added to the relationship. But our relationship and our personalities have remained the same. So I'm just so grateful that we've connected again. So I wanted to give people like a little bit of a backdrop of like how we met. And like I know we talked about this a little bit yesterday before we decided to do this, but I don't actually remember the actual day that we met. I know you said the same. I remember we met, those of you that remember back, if you were listening to my podcast at the very beginning, I talked about when I was at London School in Campo di Marte in the neighborhood of that. And that's where I met her. And that was the brunt, like the bulk of the time that I worked as an English teacher. I worked for the school. And Giulia was one of the teachers, as well as there was many others that were there. We were like freaking like cattle, I feel like, of teachers just moving in and out of there. Obviously the pay was not great. What I remember, we got paid €10 an hour, which we had to work our asses off to make €1,000 a month. I remember that specifically, but yeah, do you remember anything specific about our first meeting at the London School
Um,
or other places?
I don't. I don't remember our first meeting at all. I don't even remember how we became friends or how we even started talking. It kind of was one of those things that just rolled into itself. It's like you were a part of my life, and it was as if you were always a part of my life, and that's all I remember about it.
Yeah.
But the one really funny story that I was telling you yesterday or the other day about when, because for those of you who are not South African, in South Africa we call traffic lights robots, and I forgot this one very important thing, and I told Katie, I'll meet you at the robot, not realizing that she would take it as a literal robot. And that was one of the very first memories I have of us meeting up for lunch, and how confused you were that there wasn't an actual robot.
Yeah. Because I probably was looking for a robot, being like, okay, we're in Italy, we're in Florence, the most non-technological city in the world, and I'm looking for a robot. But yeah, I don't remember this interaction. So when you said this to me, I'm like, wow, I don't remember this. I would think I would, because it sounds like something I would be like, what the beep? Like what is that? Like, where am I supposed to meet
What
you?
are you talking
Is this
about?
a hidden underground lair that I don't know of? But yeah, so that I remember the one thing I thought of after we chatted yesterday is I remember we used to sit on across the little bridge that goes over the train tracks from there was a bakery
Yeah.
on one side from the robots that were there. Um and we used to sit there and like have like our like pastries or we have like some pizza that we got from the bakery like in between like lessons. I remember sitting there talking to you for like ever and then realizing, oh, we should probably go home or we do have to go back to the school and do classes. I don't know. I remember doing that with you a lot. And we we have some iconic pictures too that I still it still comes up in my memories on my iPhotos on my Mac. And I send it to you every so often. So Julia, you were friends with, and it's funny, Giulia went back to this bar, guys, this pub, and the same people are still running it. So this place called Victoria, which is near Santa Croce, and like we used to hang out there all the time. and we met the weirdest ass people like there. And it's not like we were sitting there wasted. I don't remember getting very drunk, but I might have been a few times, but like
Maybe one or two times.
one or
Yeah.
two times we probably were like stumbling home. But I I just remember going there, going like, who are these people? Like where did they come from? And then we found out that they're all from Prato. Do you remember this? Like, so all those kids,
Yeah, yes.
and we were like, all these kids from Prato, kids, men, whatever that we met, we're like, you're so weird. Like, they're all weird. They were really just weird
They were
people.
super weird.
Super weird. So anyway, those super weird people still own the pub. A great pub. I'm not dishing, bashing it at all. I thought it was a really nice place, but it was a little raunchy at times, I felt. But we have a few pictures that
Very.
we would sit and laugh and laugh and laugh. Because the thing that I'll tell you folks that about Giulia is that she is an old soul. So I think that's why I was very much attracted to her as a friend, because she was not of her age. So when we met, Giulia, how old were you?
Oh gosh, I think I was 19,
Yeah,
maybe.
exactly. Exactly. So I'm now 41. And so when I met her, I was in my late 20s. And yeah, so she was a very much an old soul. And there was a way that she spoke to these Italian guys that would be like, you're an idiot, but they wouldn't realize it that they were an idiot. So like those are the times when I think, and somebody would catch us and they'd take a picture of us laughing our asses off. And that's the photo I send to her all the time. I'm like, it came up again in my memories. Like, so, but yeah, we've just like through the years we've connected on and off, but it's incredible that I finally like found her YouTube page. And then I was like, oh my God, I need to talk to her again. And then lo and behold, you're moving back to Italy. And I'm like, all right, now we really need to talk. Like, so yeah, it's
It's definitely it. I, it kind of, I don't know. It was really weird. I remember speaking to my husband about it and saying, like, what if we meet again, and Katie doesn't like the person that I've become. Like, what if we don't get along? And
oh
the minute we saw each other, I was just like, no, none of that. All of that's
no.
gone. We're fine. We're good.
Oh my God, I can't believe you thought that. No, I would have thought like I don't think I thought any of that. I was just so like antsy. I'm like, am I gonna be able to have time? So by the by, people. So side note, this day I met Giulia. It was the middle of my retreat. I had just dropped off the two couples to the academia to see the David. And I didn't know if I was gonna have a lot of time to spend with her. So as I dropped them off, I'm like, okay, bye-bye. And we went to go get a coffee. And I thought I was going to have all this time to chit chat with her. And then within like a half an hour, they were done looking at the David. So we had to go pick them up. So then I was really nervous. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not going to hang out with her. And at the time as well, I had made plans to meet with two other friends randomly, not planned at all. Like my friend Laura works at Florida State University in Florence. And my friend Kelly, who lived in Italy with me in Florence for umpteen years, just happened to fly in the day before. And she's like, I don't care. I'm on jet lag. I'll come meet you. And it ended up being an amazing day. Like
It
we went
was.
to, we ended up, so anyway, my group of people decided, okay, we can go off on our own. And I gave them a map and we pointed out all the things that we wanted them to see or what they wanted to see. And then we went off and we just we met up with Laura at Florida State, and then Kelly met, and it just like was so weird because I felt like I had like generations of friends, even though we were there at the same time. But like I felt like I've never had this many friends that I really deeply care for in one space. And I was so excited. Laura, of course, had to keep working. So the four of us with Stefano went to the amazing restaurant, and I still think it was pretty good. Unfortunately, I think the man that owned it that your brother knew, I forget the name of the guy.
Yeah,
I think he might have passed because he was
I
pretty,
think so too.
yeah.
Because the food is still good, but like you said, it was not the same.
It wasn't the same. The feeling
Yeah.
wasn't the same. And so the restaurant we went to was Ike Sheshe, meaning whatever's here is here. Whatever's there is there, whatever. And it's off a side street, so a lot of tourists don't know about it. So I was so excited when we happened to walk down it randomly. I'm like, oh my God, we're going here for lunch. So it was amazing. Anyway, sorry. So I'm just going off on tangents about how amazing it was, but please tell me your thoughts. Go ahead.
No, it was really amazing. It sparked a lot of love for Tuscany in me again. You know, I was never really sure that I'd be ready to actually go back and live there, but after visiting, there's been much debate in the house about living in Tuscany again.
Yeah,
And
I know.
I think, you know, my family, my grandparents, they're from Lucca, which is I'd say about an hour's train ride out of Florence. It's smaller, you know, it's a very family orientated town, and so I grew up on their food, and I grew up with a lot of their ideals, and I guess in some ways I can feel the roots pulling me back. And you know, after you spoke about having the retreats there, and you explained to me about them and what you're doing and the wine tastings, I was like, oh, I want to be a part of this, and I want Urban Yoke to be a part of this. I've got so many ideas, and I obviously don't want to give too much away right now
Yeah,
because lots of awesome stuff to come.
yeah,
But it it really sparked a lot in me, and I definitely came back home to my cats and my husband feeling a lot more rejuvenated, you know, and like I guess in many ways, even just this podcast right now making me feel like we made the right choice and that good things are to come.
yes, for sure. For sure. So those of you, I think she said at the beginning, but so Giulia's not in Tuscany right now. She's in northern Italy. Is it Piedmonte? Are you in Piedmonte? No.
No, in Lombardy,
Oh,
I think it is
Lombardy.
in English.
Lombardia. Yeah,
Lombardia.
Lombardy. Lombardy, Lombardia. My cats are
Little
attacking each
cats.
other behind me. There's just some wars going on here. Yeah, so she and I both have this huge love for Tuscany, and I'm just glad that hopefully eventually, yeah, that's where they'll settle down after they find and have the stability to be able to purchase a place just like us. Gotta wait a little bit to about purchase for us as well. So yeah. And then I was gonna ask you, well, okay, so we talked a little bit about what we're gonna try to do together eventually. Again, we're not giving a lot away. So Julia knows a lot about cooking and stuff since she's been back to when she moved back to South Africa. She was telling me that, you know, she's mastered a few recipes and stuff. So hopefully one of our retreats, she's going to be on it with us and you know teaching us some things about cooking and simple cooking and Tuscan cooking and all the other fun cooking stuff. Um but let's go back to the first time we both set foot in Italy. Now,
Yeah.
I know you were younger than 19.
Yeah, I was 11 the first time I went to Italy, to Tuscany,
Uh-huh.
and I went with my grandparents and my sister and my brother. He was living in Florence at the time, and for anyone who's been to Florence over 10 years ago, you would know of a little shop called Carnicelli. It was a photographic store, and he worked there, and that's where he learned to become a photographer. And so we were out there visiting him, and I was getting to know all of my grandparents' family because my grandmother has like 13 siblings. So it was a month of just meeting family, like extended family.
Oh,
And that was my first introduction to Italy and Tuscany. And then I came back and did middle school. I did a year of middle school in Fucecchio, and then eventually came back when I was 19 and lived in Florence, and that's where I met you.
yeah.
And yeah, it was lots of fun. It was an interesting experience because I was staying with my mom. She was living in Florence, and so I was staying with her, and then I became a teacher, and um, you know, it was those moments in my life where I was becoming my own person, my own adult person. And I was very fortunate to meet someone like you who could give me lots of much needed advice on how to deal with people.
Oh my God. No, I feel like it was mutual. We both were very supportive of each other and we had our own obstacles to go around. Especially, you know, there was just so much, not just the bureaucracy of living in Italy, but also just like regular personal, interpersonal relationships. We had a lot of amazing conversations that really like helped us grow and helped us like, you know, introducing each other to different people, like Pasquale. Like, guys, you know Pasquale. She knows Pasquale. We've talked a lot about Pasquale on this podcast. If he ever did listen to podcasts and understood English quite well, he'd probably be like, "Why are you talking about me so much?" But because that just, I mean, I still have, I always have his picture with me too. This is like my favorite picture of me and him. Like, it's so
Aw.
cute. And you guys can't see it, but I'll tell you the picture. This is when he had taken me to what he would call a fiume, but it wasn't the Arno. Obviously, that's disgusting. But
Yeah.
the Arno is not a pretty, it's not where you swim. We went to a place in Firenzuola, like an hour, maybe 40, maybe an hour and a half north. And it's like one of those like those rivers like on there's like it's stone and it like goes through like these mountains and like you just park and it's just free. So he would take me there. I would go there with him and Simone and like and just for the day and we just lay on the rocks and we talk about life and philosophy and other stuff, you know. So that was like the day coming back from that. My friend, one of my friends took this picture and I always have it in a frame because it's like my favorite picture. So anyway, so she knows Pasquale. She jives with Pasquale because we're all mystical, spiritual beings around Pasquale. So yeah, so we connected in so many different areas as we grew our friendship. And there's so many people that we were connected with, and then also we became friends with, and like there's just so many different avenues we went down. Like we used to go to Pangee's. Do you remember Pangee's? We used to
Yeah.
eat there. That was a restaurant. Now it's still called Pangee's, by the by. I walked past it the last time I was there. But it's not owned by the same people. But yeah, we've had a lot of adventures together, to say the least. But I think the for me, like those of you that already know, like my first time going abroad, staying in Italy or coming to Italy was in 2002 when I was a student. So when I was a
Mhm.
junior in college, I came over for a semester and like one of the things that I don't know if you can remember this. I don't know it might be a little hard for you, Julia, but like the one of the things I remember the most about like my first visit to Italy was um one, again, this is just because I was a student, of just how much they fed us at these restaurants. Because we had a restaurant in Fiesole, because I was based in Fiesole,
Yeah.
and we had a restaurant we went to every night for dinner. So it was like something through our university. So we went to that same restaurant every night for 3 months. Not ate the same thing, thank God, but like we would eat 3 courses. Like we'd have an appetizer, we had a pasta or a meat, salad, bread, and dolce, like every single night. So obviously I gained like I don't know how many pounds. So I don't care. It was delicious. But I remember even my first taste of wine. Like because that was like the first time I had actual Italian wine um
Yeah.
when I was at these restaurants and stuff. And the story I always tell people about my first kind of taste of like Italy was there is a pub in Fiesole called JJ, not JJ, is it JJ Hill? It's called something else now. Yeah, JJ Hill, I think it was. It was the same as JJ Cathedral. It was the same
Yeah.
owners at a certain point. Those of you that know Florence, but JJ Cathedral is still there as well, but owned by different people. But it's right by the Duomo in
Yeah.
Piazza del
Much
Duomo.
cleaner now.
Yeah, much cleaner. Oh yeah. But JJ Hill was on the hill of Fiesole,
Mhm.
which is right in front of the bus stop in for the bus number 7 in Fiesole. So I remember going there after we had dinner, and Max was the bartender, and he knew we were all Americans, obviously. And I said I would like a glass of red wine. He's like, I'm not going to give it to you until you say it in Italian. And I'm like, oh, I'm like, okay. So, because he knew we were learning Italian, so he was being
Mhm.
nice. But I'm like, okay, well, can you help me pronounce it? So he like said it all, vorrei un bicchiere di vino rosso. So I had to say it all the right way until he had the glass of wine in front of him. He's like, am I giving it to you until you say it correctly? I'm like, okay. So, because I was adamant about it. So I will always remember that. And I happened to, I don't know, I might have been with you though because in Campo di Marte there was a bar right across from the Forno on the
Yeah.
street that goes over is it Via degli Artisti? I can't remember the name of that street. Anyway, right across the street, there was a bar there. I remember going in there one time after class, and Max was there, that same bartender that
I
told.
vaguely remember that.
I think you might have been with me, and I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
God, Max. He's like, what? Like he didn't remember me. And I'm like, remember? He didn't remember my name, but I'm like, JJ Hill, you worked at JJ Hill? He's like, yeah. Like you taught me that phrase. He's like, oh my God. And it like came back to him and he did remember me in the end. I'm like, oh my God, that's like the coolest thing. So Florence is very small, people. Like I say it all the time on the podcast. It's very small. You can run into people all the time.
That's
But
true.
yeah, so that was my like first kind of feeling of it. I think at first I thought Florence was really big, but then once you like wander the streets, it really isn't. Like, especially the center. I wouldn't say the outskirts. The outskirts you could probably get lost. But like but in the center, like where all the tourist things are, the churches and everything. I don't know, what would you think? Like, I mean, it's not that big in your opinion.
It's not big at all. I mean, you could, in half an hour, you could walk, 30 minutes to pretty much anywhere in
Sure.
the city center.
Oh,
Like, no problem. And it's also an easy walk too. It's mostly flat, and you find yourself just walking anyway in a certain direction. You just keep walking, and at some point you're on the outskirts or you're in the Cascine. You're like, oh, what am I doing here?
I walked too far. Where am I now? Like,
yeah. And definitely don't go to the Cascine at night, though, if you are in Florence. Avoid.
That's a good tip. Yeah, don't go there at night. Parco della Cascina is on, if you're looking at the Duomo, it's behind you. Like the face of the facade of the Duomo, it's behind you, but it's if you know where the American consulate is, those of you that are American, it's if you keep following, going away from it to the left. Oh, we have only 10 minutes left. Okay, it's okay.
Oh, no.
And then we will come back on. It's okay. But yeah, so it's over there. So you can't like usually tourists don't really get that far unless they are going to the market that's on Tuesday mornings. That's usually when I see tourists there.
So we had a little break with Zoom, so I had to come back into Zoom. So here's the rest of the episode.
Little break there, but we're back now. So we want to sum up a little bit about what we're going to do for this series. So the series, we don't know how long it's going to go because we're going to let it flow. But we want to have a series that prepares people for their first time to Italy. It doesn't have to be a specific region. We're not going to focus on that, but just general like customs, cultural aspects, some things that that a lot of people talk about, especially when you're younger, that feeling of culture shock, like not sure where am I going to get my peanut butter? And that's usually the Americans talking like, there's no peanut butter back then. So people had, honest to God, little side note, I had when I was a student, 2002, legitimately have my friends' parents ship peanut butter to our hotel. I mean, it's ridiculous. I was like, what? But now you can find peanut butter anywhere, so don't worry, people. Everything's okay. So yeah, and so what to add with that, Julia? What do you think? Other things that we have discussed that we were talking about? So culture shock things. What are the things?
I think, we'll talk about culture shocks and sort of how to prepare yourself, maybe a bit about traveling in Italy itself, because yes, there's public transport, but, sometimes it's not necessarily as reliable as other countries, it's not like Switzerland where it will be on time. It's probably not going to be on time. And, the way that the systems work, like all over Italy, every region, every province has a different way of, buying tickets and all of that. So we can get into a few tips on how to actually get around without necessarily having a car, because even driving in Italy is a test of its own.
Oh yeah. And those of you that have driven in Italy, good job, because it is quite a feat to in certain aspects. It's not very difficult. I don't want to scare anybody, but it's just a different way of driving. Like different way of driving. So and other things like we were talking about, like food, like other types of food culture in Italy, like how You're not going to be getting a doggy bag every time you leave a restaurant, for example. Like
Oh,
they don't
don't even ask for one. Don't
they don't even ask. Like either you finish it or you don't, and it's okay. But I think with the pandemic, things might have shifted a little bit. They might have offer some sort of to-go box or something, but even the recent times I've been to Italy this year, I don't remember them offering that at all. So you either eat it or you don't. And so yeah, food stuff, wine, different things about wine tastings and stuff like that we want to talk about. We want to dive further into that culture, and then also coffee. Julia, you want to put a little tidbit in there about coffee culture?
I definitely want to talk a lot more about that. Like in South Africa, people mostly use instant coffee. And if that's something that you're used to drinking on a daily basis, or even filtered coffee, coming to Italy where everything is espresso and it's hard coffee, it's intense, it can be overwhelming. And there's also certain times of the day that you drink coffee. You don't drink espresso when you wake up. You have a cafe latte with your little biscuits. There's a special mug for that, and kind of just how people go about it, and
Yeah.
how very serious they are about people who drink hot milk after a meal. Like, how dare you?
Yeah.
It's a big problem.
Yeah, and that's still a taboo thing, but they still give it to you. So I'm not okay, because my mother was one of those people. No offense, mom.
Yeah.
But I mean, more than just my mother. Even like I tourists in general like to have a cappuccino after their lunch. I don't know
Yeah.
why, but they do, and that's okay. But when I first went to Italy in 2002, I remember specifically telling me, no, don't do it. Like, no, 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 it's a no-no. An espresso maybe at 11 a.m. and then yeah, like she said, cafe latte in the morning or cafe macchiato, which is what I always would get. But something like that. But yeah, so coffee culture is very different. And just like she said about South Africa, Americans, a cafe americano, they do have them on the menu at the bars, but it's not what you think it is. Okay?
No.
It's not. So you're gonna have to be okay with that, or just not drink coffee in Italy. But you have to because it's amazing.
Yeah.
So, like,
And if
just be
if
aware.
you're also, to add on to that, if you're a tea lover,
Hmm.
definitely find tea shops to go and have tea at,
And
because like,
yes, good point.
yes, if you go to the bar, a coffee bar, and you try to get tea there, it's gonna be disappointing.
Oh,
That's
such a good point. And that's where we're gonna I mean, there is a tea shop, and I think I already mentioned her on my podcast. Oro Nero, her shop
mm,
is. It's a small shop off of Piazza Pitti. They have the most amazing tea. Okay, so we'll talk about that too. Okay, so that is basically what our series is gonna be about. Otherwise, we're just gonna start our series now. It's
yeah.
gonna be like 4 hours long. And Julia, it's like it's 9 o'clock in Italy, so I'm gonna let her go. But Julia, I'm so excited about this. I get to see your beautiful face, hopefully every week, if we were able to record every week.
I
And
have no
I hope
problem
you,
with that.
yeah, she has no problem. Yes. And I hope you guys enjoy this series too. If you have any questions, anything that you want us to talk about, feel free to email me at trulyitalytours@gmail.com. You can even go to my website and write me an email if you couldn't write all that down. That's totally fine. Trulyitaly.tours. But yeah, I'm really excited. I'm hoping we'll start this next week, so it'll go through December. And remember, I still have my retreats out there. They are available. We have payment plans, all the good stuff. And those of you that are local, I'm just gonna do a little plug here. I am now doing Tuscan wine tastings as Millie eats my shirt. Okay, sorry. Um, whatever. I can't.
Thanks, Billy.
She's crazy. So yeah, so I'm doing these Tuscan wine tastings. I've been posting about it on my channels. If you are interested in doing it, if you're a local to Chicagoland area, I will bring 6 bottles of wine to you. Tell you about the history of the vineyard, how the wine is made, and then we get to taste it. And also I'm trying to pair with some sort of food vendor as well. So that's TBD. But otherwise I cannot offer you appetizers. So that would be something if you want to have me at your house or at your place of business and order in. I'm totally okay with that. And you can also purchase the wine directly from me after the tastings as well, which is key because it'll go directly to your house and it's freaking amazing. So if you're interested in any of that, feel free to email me. Giulia, thank you for being here today. I love you so much. And I love your cats as much as I love you. And Charles, I'm so glad. I can't wait to meet you. Her husband, people, we didn't introduce him. But I'm really excited about this series. And guys, I hope you have a lovely Thanksgiving if I don't record another episode before Thanksgiving, which is tomorrow. And allora, this is how I finish my podcast, Giulia. I say, buongiorno, buonasera, buonanotte, wherever you are, and I'll talk to you next time. Ci si vede. I don't know. I say all the words. Okay, ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
I am beyond grateful for you listening to my podcast right now. I am so excited to share my journey of living abroad and all of my stories of Florence and Italy and all the places in between that I've visited. If this has reached you in any way and you would like to continue, please subscribe now. Also, go check out my website, trulyitaly.tours, for all my travel experiences. Ci si vede. Ciao.